Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for making time for today's session. You had a lot of options today to pick from, and the fact that you came for my talk is an honor, and I'm very humbled, so thank you for making time. I hope I can do just as a good job as Carly did earlier prior to me. I hope this session lives up to her standards and your standards. I'm following on this theme about developers and people, and how that's important in the work that we do every day, because it is all about people. And I'll take you through a journey about this concept about move thoughtfully and build things. I'm going to do that by giving you some real-world examples, some of them personal. It might get a little emotional if I start tearing up. If someone has some tissues, please bring it up. I would appreciate that. But before we start, I want to talk about bridges. So I know many of you, some of you I got to know recently, these last couple of days, but I have a deep appreciation of things that are long-lasting, things that are durable, things that still have value, things that evolve and provide us utility. And throughout my history, my family has been lucky enough to visit many parts of the world, and I've fallen in love with two things. One are cathedrals and one are bridges. Because bridges that have been built in history that test the test of time is because of the way it's been built. If you know anything about the Tower Bridge, it took 8 years to finish, and it's been in utilization ever since then. And it stands robustly, proudly, a beacon of not just beauty, but of utility. And it provides value every day, moving people from one side to the other, connecting people. There's a metaphor there in terms of connection, not just from moving from one side to the other, but this notion of connecting people along the way. But what if bridges don't connect? If any of you have taken a physics class or a mechanical engineering class like I have, you might have seen this use case. And if you don't know what this is or need a refresher, this is above the Tacoma Narrows Passage in the state of Washington. Now, back in 1940, on the inaugural day when this bridge was opened, it actually collapsed. It stood for a few minutes, and it should have been standing for decades, if not hundreds of years. It was the most modern suspension bridge of its time, and yet it failed catastrophically. Now, why is that? Again, some of you physics buffs might know this, but essentially, what is a bridge? It's a fixed wing structure, and what the engineers, a very intelligent group of individuals, failed to do was understand that where this bridge was located was at a point where wind channels up the Tacoma Narrows Passage and oscillates into a very tight corridor. So what does wings do when they experience air resistance? It oscillates, it pitches, it rolls, it yaws, just like a plane. And on that day, the wind was so severe that it went over this structure and oscillated and yawed and pitched the bridge because the designers failed to understand the dynamics of where the bridge was located. And to meet public needs, they rushed the bridge into operation before further testing could be done. Luckily enough, no one passed away. A dog did. A driver was driving across the bridge. As it started to oscillate, people fled off the surface. The car was left there, the dog was left there, it perished. I love dogs, so it's very tragic for me as well. But we don't get a sense of failure when it doesn't affect us. We can look at it, we can see it when after it's occurred, we can have remorse, we can have sadness, but until it affects you personally, it's hard to appreciate failure on this level or this scale. Let's talk about something a bit more personal for me. So this is my mother. She worked at NASA for almost 26 years. She was part of the Skylab program back in the 1970s that helped put the first space station into space. She was part of the orbital team. She was also in flight control for the entire space shuttle mission until that tragically ended. Unfortunately, we still don't fund that program. But one of the things my twin sister and I always got to enjoy is whenever my mom would go for one of the launches, we got to travel with her. I was there for the very first shuttle launch. Pretty inspiring, sitting there in the gallery with other family members of other NASA employees, and you hear that roar and that pitch and that energy and that explosion, and you see this great object of human making reaching the stars. In 1996, you might remember this, mission STS-51L. STS is Space Transportation System. That's what every shuttle mission was referred to. And we saw that beautiful bird ascend into the sky. It was just about to release its boosters, and if any of you recall what happened that day, one of those boosters failed catastrophically. The entire crew perished. We know the effects of what has happened since then. We've already had one other incident of another shuttle exploding, and eventually it led to the ending of this type of mission by NASA. And why did that happen? So if you knew anything about rocket boosters, they're sectionalized with both hard fuel and liquid fuel, and that red circle is one of the preventers of pressure between sections, and that's called an O-ring. That O-ring, in terms of size, is about 3-4 feet in radius. Costs no more than about $25-30 US at the time. And that O-ring, that seal failed where fuel started to leak out during the launch process and ignited all the fuel, which then ignited the main center fuel tank, which then led to the destruction of the entire platform and solution set and the people. But why did this happen? If anyone knows about Florida, Florida can be very cold in the morning and very warm in the afternoon. And during that day of launch, the shuttle had already had multiple cancellations because of weather patterns, because of cloud, because of rain. And so during this process of stop, start, what does rubber do when it goes through heat and cold? It expands, it contracts, it cracks. And to meet some very strict guidelines in terms of human desires, they decided to still launch that rocket knowing that that rubber seal had contracted and expanded and contracted, and there were obvious cracks that were recognized in it, yet they still went forward because they believed that there would be enough failover that it would not catastrophically fail, and yet it did. Now, yes, it hit me because this is something my mother worked on, but it was even more emotional because we refer to one of the astronauts as Auntie Judy. This is Dr. Judith Resnick. She was a student in my father's fluid dynamics class at University of Maryland Aerospace Engineering. He was also her advisor for 4.5 years. And so when I say it doesn't make sense in terms of failure until it hits you personally, that's when you realize why planning matters, why being thoughtful matters, why building things matter. Let's take it another level. Now, even though Auntie Judy's no longer here, and it hit our family hard, what about when it hits you personally? I'd like to introduce you to Sharat Chander. Do we look anything alike? So this individual stole my identity in 2017 because the healthcare facility that I was at did not put in the right protocols at the time because it was a brand new facility that they wanted to open up to the public, and someone, this individual, stole my medical records, represented herself as me, ran up a line of credit at casinos, opened up multiple credit cards, impacting me directly. I had to go through a lot of litigation. She was eventually arrested. She's incarcerated. She was a third-time offender in the US. If you commit a third-time felony, you're in prison for life. And she had done this not just to me, but to 11 other individuals. We all had to go to court, go through the trial, protest against her, experience that pain of exposure to know that now my identity is out there. And why did this happen? Again, a facility that was rushed to open just to meet some human desires and needs actually has impact, material impact. I'm still living through the residuals of this, even though it happened in 2017. Every once in a while, I will see someone trying to open up a line of credit, and I have to work with multiple agencies to try and have it shut down, whether it's the credit bureau or other organizations. And I can't tell you how much impact that puts on you, your family, your life, that you're always worrying about something might tragically happen. And how does that make sense to all of us? Because we as developers have started to embrace this concept of move fast and break things. I purposely use this picture because the individual who came up with it, in my opinion, represents the evilness of this person. This concept of move fast and break things, I'm sorry, we are developers. We don't break things, we build things. We build things of value, we build things that have purpose, we build things that don't hurt people or should be positive and beneficial. And I have to say, fast is not something to aspire to, because when you move fast, you lose sight of what it is that you're trying to do. You're trying to build something that's going to be helpful, not hurtful. And if you've ever been on a train, if you're lucky enough to go to Japan, I highly encourage you to ride one of the bullet trains. That notion of speed and acceleration is exciting, but when you look out the window, what do you see? It's a blur. You don't understand the appreciation of what's outside unless you focus your eyes in the distance on the horizon, but immediately in front of you is just a blur. And so if we work fast in our environments, it's just a blur. What you do is not a blur. It's going to have impact on someone at some point. I had this debate with my father, flew back to the state of Maryland. I was sitting there very thoughtfully with my father at dinner, telling him about this whole mantra, how it's affecting our work environment. My father is a very stoic man of few words, smartest human being I know. He stopped me in the middle of a conversation and he said, "No, move thoughtfully and build things." I remember that. It was in 2019, September, very close to my birthday, and his as well. It's in September. And I've been embracing this concept ever since then. Because the concept of move thoughtfully and break things isn't counterintuitive to move fast and build things. Thoughtfulness means knowing when to speed up, when to slow down, when to adjust your velocity. And building things isn't the absence of failure. It means the concept of trying to minimize breakage and evolve and have a cycle of feedback so you can continually improve what it is, such that what you do, what you build, what you release, what you evolve continues to have value, so it's not hurting someone. The problem is, we do not put people first in our industry. We don't. All too often at a meta level, we look at technology in terms of how quickly can it get out there so I can work on the next project, and not understand that we should be focusing on people first and the technology second. Who it is that we're trying to help, what it is that we're trying to assist with, what problem are we trying to solve such that it has something that's of benefit and not pain. And that's because of the environment we live in. All too often we live in a world in our companies where we're told we can't do something, you won't do something, you're not able to do something, and we get dehumanized in the work that we do as people and as developers. We just look at ourselves as a machine, as something that delivers, and I have to tell you, we need to take self-accountability to understand the human dimension in terms of what we do, because what we do translates to our products. And I have to tell you, you have to reinforce this selves with you every day in terms of the mantras that you might utilize. I always say, I can, I am, I will. Because all too often we can get drowned out by the noise that's around us and fall back into that trap of just trying to move fast and see things in the world in a blur. To do that means you have to acknowledge that you don't know everything. Another great quote from my father. I need to publish all his quotes one day. Maybe that's a monetization opportunity for me in the future. Who knows? Anyway, he also says, you know less than you know. And I never really understood this. This is one of his quotes he used to tell me and my twin sister when we were little, and we just didn't get it. It took me forever. What do you mean I don't know what I know? I know a lot. The thing is, the surface of what you know is minute to what you can know. So we have to constantly be inquisitive. If we want to move thoughtfully and build things, we have to learn, we have to adapt, we have to evolve, just like the thing that we build needs to do, whether you continue to work on it or hand it off to another individual. And that's why community is important. What I love about DevOps UK, it is the celebration of community where we can share our concerns, share our fears, share our doubts, so we can help uplift all of ourselves to the summit we're trying to reach. That's literally what part of my job is to fulfill your desires thanklessly like a teacher does. And when you reach your summit, that to me is reward and gratification. So constantly be inquisitive, constantly learn and discover, constantly connect with other people. And I will conclude with, as you work, remember this, please move thoughtfully and build things. Thank you.